People who voted for Biden, how do you feel he is as a president? Well, he created 3 times more jobs than the last 3 Republican presidents combined. He passed the CHIPS Act and Science Act. Inflation is high in the US, but it's even higher around the globe. We've managed to keep it relatively low considering the global trends. But most of all, I like the fact that he isn't a petty narcissist who would rather commit treason than allow a slight on his ego. He's definitely old, and not a great public speaker, but he's been 100 scandal-free, the world isn't laughing at us, and he's not a rampant criminal. So all in all, I'm more than satisfied. Some criticisms, but it hasn't been terrible. The stopping of the border wall redirected funds to my military installation, and we are getting a bunch of new hangars and buildings, which is nice since they are 100 years old and falling apart. He screwed the pooch on the student loan forgiveness, promising something the Supreme Court was able to up millions of payers. The infrastructure bill was pretty excellent, and is super nice to see battery, solar, and car manufacturers moving back to North America. Not bad by the Biden administration. Was just discussing this with people yesterday. He's been the best president in the 30 years I've been alive, but he really needs to put his foot down on some things to get the progress we're gonna need in his second term, since I doubt Williamson will be able to beat out a sitting president in the primaries. Hoping he actually takes a major effort in reforming the court, since it's basically a hostage situation at this point, with certain justices ready to retire once a Republican president is in office again. I like the fact that the president and his team has been actively working to fix things and implementing fresh ideas to assist the majority of Americans. He's actually doing the job he was appointed to do, while the right has become a party of hate and bigotry that does nothing to help anyone but themselves. I wish we could fast forward to the series finale of this shit show where these extremists, like the cult MAGA morons, drink Trump's freedom punch for one last call, one last rally, one last grift. 98 of these responses are about simply not voting for Trump. You know, that isn't really how it is supposed to work. Biden and co are a disaster. It really is shocking to read all of these responses. We all definitely in our heads live in 2 entirely different countries. Our realities are not the same. I cannot have discussions about this at all truthfully. I can't wrap my head around the thought process on your side. So I almost never, 99.9% of the time, engage in this topic. It is a lose-lose. He has gotten more bipartisan stuff done than I thought he would. That's been really impressive. It's hard to move a lot, and the president wasn't the make or break factor. It was the Senate and House margins, which some of those candidates would have maybe been scared off by a more liberal candidate. Very wary of him running again, but heck. Who else do they, unless we get another Buttigieg? But then again, he kinda got what he wanted, which was out of Indiana and a more prominent role to move forward. I think he's been absolutely fine. And when the GOP tries their hardest to stick anything to him like Obama or Hillary, it immediately dies. Is he the greatest president who ever lived? No. Is he an example of how presidents should be and how they should lead a country? Yes. Besides, at this point the problem isn't who is in office really. The issue is that Congress is fundamentally broken and need a complete peaceful upheaval. Cause what we got in the House and Senate is not working whatsoever. He is doing as well as he can with nothing but obstructionists around him. It's hard to get anything done when you are not allowed to do anything. I think he tries too hard to do things the traditional way when we know Republicans won't let him accomplish anything they can block in any way. There could be incontrovertible proof that a bill will literally help everyone, save the world, end hunger and poverty, and Republicans wouldn't block it just because it would mean a Democrat wins something. Better than I expected, for sure. I voted for Pete in the primary, and wasn't terribly high on Biden. I still don't love the guy, and I do wonder about his cognitive state at times. However, he's a competent office holder who has appointed a really good cabinet. He's done an absolutely admirable job of cleaning up the mess left by Trump, and hasn't done anything particularly scandalous himself. He's not my favorite guy by a long shot, but he's actually doing really well. Worse than I could have ever imagined. And to see the second most upvoted comment be "I like boring competence." Holy shit boys, he is incompetent to the max. Problem is, so many of you get your news from pro-Democrat sources, so you don't hear anything. This is in stark contrast when you have a Republican in, where you have whatever flavor of the week they didn't do right played up to you. Then you think the quiet that follows with another Democrat means boring competence. He's okay, he's done some good things. I don't agree with everything, but compared to the former one, Biden is like a god. I like presidents who don't rape women, kiss dictators' asses, steal classified documents, foment insurrections, mock veterans, cheat on taxes, have enormous egos, sell NTF trading cards of themselves wearing Superman outfits, betray our own intelligence community, abuse their political power, cheat when they don't get their way, etc. He's too old. Constantly looks out of place. Probably a good change of pace from Trump, but don't really think he's done anything substantial. Would like someone younger and forward-thinking, not necessarily left or right. Just feel like we never have a good choice and think the lesser of two evils argument gets old. Our political system sucks and doesn't represent most of our beliefs or feelings. Pretty much numb to our elections at this point. Honestly, completely fine with the job he's doing. I don't wake up every morning scared to read the news wondering if the idiot in the White House has kicked off World War III or is suggesting we inject bleach. He's boring. I'm fine with boring. I had 4 years of anxiety-fueled nonsense. Do I want him to run again? Not really, I feel he's way too old at this point. It's time for the next generation to get in there and start doing some good. He's boring. I love it. He just does a job every day with no drama or chaos. He's achieved a lot of really good legislation without threats or bigotry. He doesn't make false promises every 2 weeks. He has a sense of humor. He makes fun of himself. He is self-effacing. He is kind. He has walked through incredible tragedy in his life and has empathy. Is he perfect? Absolutely not. But I will absolutely vote for him again. About what I expected. Probably the worst Democrat in office since Woodrow Wilson in a century. Certainly one of the worst Democrats to ever hold the office. Of all of the candidates in the primary last time, he was around the bottom of my list. We have really shitty choices because money decides who gets onto the ticket. And yet he was still the clear and easy choice last time. We're in dark times. Better than Trump. Recently I've been enjoying Republicans foaming at the mouth at anything he does. Apparently he wore shoes without socks. The horror. He's apparently both sleepy and a mastermind cokehead. At the same time, after 4 years of Trump I have no patience for Republican nonsense. Because it's not about the children or family values, it's about control and bigotry. If you look at the criticisms of his presidency, they're either on issues that come to political preference, or manufactured outrage. He's had some hits and misses, but no major blunders that have hurt the country. Most importantly, though, he's repaired the country's international relations which the last presidency greatly damaged. As far as presidencies go, it's an acceptable term. He's just okay. I honestly can't tell how much he's down. Everything Trump did was blasted all over the media, and everything Obama did was scrutinized so much by ultra-conservatives that I honestly don't remember if Bush and Clinton received just as little attention as Biden aside from the Warren scandal, or if Biden really isn't doing anything so there's nothing to report. Ain't nothing of the S done some good. He's failed in other areas mostly due to the GOP Congress people, but a good or a great president can get past that hurdle. I'd like to see what he actually comes through with if they have a supermajority in both. I believe they get in 2024. Leaps and bounds better than Trump at least. He's done a pretty decent job so far. Ushered in a bipartisan infrastructure bill that'll help America become more independent and increase domestic production of advanced chips, improve ties with India which would make us strong partners with an upcoming world superpower, and he forgave $20,000 on student loan debt. I went from May to hey, not bad Bo Biden. Honestly I feel like he's made no discernible impact one way or another. It almost feels like we don't even have a president right now. But maybe that's due to the two that came before him, that made a big splash one way or the other. I don't think he's a particularly good president, but he hasn't really fucked anything up either. He just is. I actually think he is doing better than I first expected. Not a single insane or narcissistic bone in his body. We have actually sailed through things that rightfully should have caused a huge recession, coming out stronger than when we went in. I honestly don't understand why he gets so much hate. Objectively it seems like he is doing alright. Democrats hire smart people to tackle real problems, Republicans hire people to shut those programs down. I am fine with Joe as my president, and I suspect Jill is helping and advising him, which I am also fine with, just as Michelle did. Melania just spent taxpayers' money on and did nothing to help the US become a safer, fairer, and better place. He's not flashy, but I firmly believe he could go down as one of the better presidents in the last 100 years. He's severely underrated due to the current polarization we are in, as well as his age. Some people use his age as a proxy for how they feel about his overall performance, But I think time will show that is not quite right. Much better than I expected or even hoped. Turns out the boring stuff matters, and he's good at it. In 2020 I voted for him due to the alternative. In 2024 I will vote for him with enthusiasm. He's still old, he's still boring, but unlike many politicians these days he has my respect. I won't take that for granted ever again. I feel relieved and much safer now. The economy is better, there are jobs and no idiot acting like Hitler and lying on a daily basis. No more kissing Putins and virtually every dictator in the world asks. Unfortunately the Republican former Conservative Party is no more an embarrassment on a daily basis. He isn't a complete imbecilic groaning embarrassment, so it's good. Not being embarrassed by your president is a very low bar, but do I even need to explain any further just how disgraceful Trump was? I can't believe Trump even went further in the election than just a complete joke, yet many actually voted for him. He's fine. He's not been everything I'd hoped, but he's been fine. I prefer my presidents to have their head down and do the job, and Biden seems to be doing it well enough. He wasn't my first choice, shit, he was in my fourth or fifth choice, but when you look at the alternative, I'll take this all day every day. Honestly, I think he's just a warm body that the DNC shuffles around from place to place and hopes he doesn't go too off script. I don't have anything against him personally, but he's old as fuck and should just spend the rest of his life enjoying himself rather than worrying about running a global superpower.